everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to start working on the legs of the ultimate gaming table, and if you haven't watched the first video, I'll remind you that we're going to do this without electricity and with very few metal components, no nails, and probably a few screws, wood screws, but hopefully that's it. So as I go, I'm going to try to keep a running total of the cost to me, so that it'll give you an idea at the end of this series how much this table costs. Now that's going to vary from region to region about wood and what woods you choose to use versus what I choose to use. I'm trying to do the table pretty cheap, but not as cheap as possible, because I don't want to use all cheap woods all throughout. And so I'm going to keep a running tab, but I'm not going to include tools because, one, I inherited a lot of my tools, and you may choose to do this with electricity, and so your costs may be a lot higher than mine. But as we go, I'll try to keep it, down here in the corner every time I include some new purchase. Now what we're going to do today is, I've already started this project, but I haven't gotten very far yet, and I decided I wanted to document it. So I've already done 2 legs. I've roughed out 2 legs. This is one of them here. And we're going to turn this into this, and I'm going to show you how I did that using no electricity. And I'm also here to show y'all, as we document this and go along, how easy this is for anybody to do. I don't have a shop. I don't have a lot of electric tools. I don't have a lot of room in my house. I'm going to do a lot of this outdoors and show you just a little bit of sweat, and you can do what other people do with electricity. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you. I've already pre-cut one of my legs here. This was a 6x6 post, so my first purchase is 2 6x6 pine posts. These are for outdoor use, and as some people discussed in the forums on Boardgame Geek, these things are chemically treated, so you don't want to use these where there's going to be metal components, because they will corrode a lot faster. And you also don't want to use these around anything that you're going to be touching and eating off of or anything like that. But I'm going to seal these up at the end of it after we finish them and after I whittle them down. And so the legs are the only part that's going to be the outdoor post, so it shouldn't present much of a problem. But our first purchase is 2 6x6 pine posts, about 8 feet long. And I'm going to derive 4 legs out of those, and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make our markings on this piece, which I pre-cut. This is 30 inches. At the top end is where the interior or the play surface of the table is going to rest on top of this, and on the back end is, of course, the floor. This is the pre-cut, straight from the lumber yard, if you will. So this is going to be as flat as it's going to get, so I'm going to use this as the base, and then I'm going to measure up to the length of the table leg, and then I'm going to leave a little piece sticking up here that's going to go inside the table for some support, and also for the interior play surface to rest on to give it a little bit more support. So of course, when you go pick these pieces of wood out, make sure you get as straight of pieces as you can. I don't have a planer or anything to make these completely flat and smooth, so I can work off any edges with my hand plane, but mostly you're going to be getting it as close as you can. So I'm going to start out at 20.5 inches. From the bottom. And then, of course, when you draw lines across here to keep them straight on the corresponding sides, you should always reference the flattest surface. So since I haven't flattened these surfaces, they're pretty much all the same. And I want to go just on the north side of 20.5 inches, so that when I cut, I'm not going to be cutting into that length. And sorry if this gets loud, but we're not working with professional equipment here. And luckily, now that I've completed the complete circuit around the pieces, my two faces match up from the original and the last face, so that's good. That means I didn't make a mistake there measuring. Okay, now we're going to make our knife wall, which we're going to go around the same surfaces with the knife to cut in so that the chisel, I can chisel away the side to make a wall, so that when I saw it, the saw will follow that wall and won't deviate, since it's just a large piece of wood anyway. The first time you go across with the knife, you want to do it pretty soft in case you miss. And the second time you can go a little harder. And the third time. And each subsequent time we can go pretty hard. Before we get started cutting here, I want to draw in on the end where my 30-inch post is going to be. That comes up off. It's going to be take up a quarter of the post. And I'll draw it on the end so that I know where, when I saw, what not to saw into. Okay, so on the end here, I'm going to have a top base of 3 inches that's tapered down from 6 at the bottom. And then in a quarter of it, I've quartered it out to the 3 inches, and I'm going to keep one section. I'm going to put a big K on that to keep it, and then I'm going to cut these away down to the 2 foot mark, or the 20.5 inch mark, I mean, so that all this will be cut away down to here, and this post, the 30-inch post, will remain in the corner, and that's to use as the extra support. So I went ahead and pre-drew that on there so that I wouldn't bore you with a lot of pencil marks, but I did measure twice. Okay, so now I'm going back and doing the knife wall on the top to give myself a little bit of help when I cut the shoulders off this thing. And always be careful with sharp objects. But this is no more dangerous than a, say, a table saw or a router or anything else. I think it's less dangerous. Isn't this quiet? Nice. I could be playing music if I wasn't talking to y'all right now. You don't have to worry about the noise waking up the neighbors or your kids. I used to watch with my dad that New Yankee Workshop, and I was amazed at Norman, what all he could build. And at the end of the show they'd show you the plans. And then after seeing his entire shop, it kind of hit me that I think anybody could do what he does if they had $1 million worth of equipment like he does. And he'd always bring out, you know, some special item, some tool that nobody else has. And he'd say, well, you know, this is going to make it easier for me. This will cut my table legs for me, and I don't even have to do anything. It kind of gave me the gave everybody the false impression that, you know, you could do this too. Well, you can do it, but you just have to find workarounds for everything. Alright. And I've always said, you know, given enough time, I can make anything. A little bit of a bump in my wood here where I didn't cut it straight through. It's giving my ruler a little bit of a problem. Got all 4 sides of that nailed down. Now we're going to go to town with it. Now this is where things get a little difficult because I don't have all the benches, fancy benches and stuff. So we're going to figure out a way to do this. And all I'm doing here is making that gap a little bit bigger for my saw so that when it goes down through there it'll go a little bit straighter. makes a little bit of a mess inside, but all the sawing I'll do outside so that I don't have to clean that up. I guess I could do this outside too, but I'm already here, so. Where there's a will, there's a way. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm sure there's cleaner, easier ways of doing some of this stuff, and I wish someone, if they see this, would tell me what those are. But, you know, it's working. I'm not making this table for anyone but myself, but that doesn't mean I don't want to make it as nice as I can. Probably would have helped if I would have used my 1-inch chisel, because that's my sharper chisel. I just realized I grabbed the wrong one. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this out, cut down each of these so that I can saw down each shoulder, and I'll pick back up after that. And there you go. That took me about 5 minutes. And by the way, that reminds me, I think I'm going to try to keep track of how much time this table build takes through each episode, and that's going to be minus how much it did for the first two. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut the side knife off for the sides, and then we'll be ready to cut with the saw. You know, if you tear into the wood a little bit, scratch it up on this side, it really doesn't matter, because we're going to be shaving that down anyway. So that's why if some of you who have done this stuff before are kind of freaking out about how I'm laying stuff and dropping stuff on the wood. break out the saw. Alright, so we're going to talk a little bit about a saw here for a minute. I'm not here to teach you all about the different kinds of saws, but this is a saw that belonged to my great-grandfather, and I don't know, I'm estimating the saw's about 100 years old, 90 years old. And I cut the first leg with this saw, and after I sharpened it and refinished it, of course, but it just took a long time. And even no matter how badly I wanted to use this saw, I went out and got me a saw with a larger tooth count, which of course has got more space between the teeth. The teeth per inch is what they go by, and that will allow me to cut, because this is not fine work cutting down the leg. This will allow me to cut faster and save me some sweat. So I have used this saw, and I have another one like it, but that's going to be for cutting more smaller boards. When you cut a 6x6, I don't want to rip, so we're going to use this new rip saw. This is harder with a broken hand. Or at least I think it's broken. You get down in here real far, it starts pinching your saw. So I'm going to add a little bit something. Let's take the pressure off. Some of the mistakes I made and learned from on the first leg was don't come in this way when you're finishing up with your chisel. You'll just cut a groove down in there and make it not as strong. And I'm not doing all the 100% finishing right now. I'm just getting the bulk of it off because I'm going to go over it with a plane. Just want to get some of these corners cleaned up. There you go. First shoulders cut off. It took from start to finish with rest probably 15 minutes. So we got another 3 sides to go. And there's the second shoulder cut. Apologize for the, I had to cut off the camera because it got too hot. I never had that happen before, but I guess it's got something to do with being in direct sunlight, plus it was running at HD. So next we're going to cut off the remaining 2 shoulders, and we'll see what we can get from there. Now I'm going to come in with another knife wall just to make this thing a little bit more straight. Light on the first pass. A little bit heavier. Light. Heavier. Of course, when I cut these away, the shoulders away, it took away any lines I would have had, so I had to redraw lines on the inside here. I don't know if you can see them or not, but that's what I'm going by with the knife walls. I've already measured them out. Light. Go ahead and do this side. A little heavier. As heavy as you want. heavier. This deluxe workbench here I got from my dad. Inherited it, I guess, from my dad. This is the same workbench, if you read the blog, that I try to write alongside this video or these video documentaries. You know that I spent my entire childhood building onto our house. This is the same workbench that every summer and winter we were busy refurbishing, knocking down a wall, adding new walls, taking in the porch, adding the bathroom, taking down that wall, putting up another wall. But we never did any woodworking. It was all carpentry. So I'm new to the carpentry world. I'm new to the woodworking world, and I love it. I may not be any good at it, but as long as I keep just making stuff for myself, I guess I'm my only critic, right? So a lot of my friends and family, when I told them I was going to build this table, they thought that was a great idea. Like most families do, they're supportive, and then you show them a picture of the Sultan and say, this is the table I'm going to try to build. That's when they start pulling you aside and telling you, oh, maybe you should just stick to something smaller. I say go big or go home. Never did nothing. So, kind of like that Bugs Bunny cartoon, you know, where he runs out over the cliff and the guy chasing him falls, but he doesn't. He doesn't know that he can't walk back to the cliff. I figure as long as you don't know that you can't do something, you can't. It goes a long way towards getting you there. Believing you can't do something will definitely keep you from doing it. And I'm having a good old time attempting it. Alright, so we got our knife walls down here now. Let's cut this thing up. Just happen to be as crazy as I am and is actually attempting to do this along with me, I'd love it if you send me a picture or two of your progress too, because all that stuff helps keep you motivated. It gets
a lot easier to cut the further you get, because you don't have as much wood to pass through. But it does get, you get a little bit more tired as you go, so that does contribute to slowing you down. You know, try to do them all 4 legs at the same time. I'm in no hurry.
So there you have it. Another leg down. Still got to cut the 4th leg, and we still got to shave this one down and taper it on the bottom from 6 inches up to 3 inches. That takes a little bit longer than what we did today. I've spent about 2 hours today in total, and that includes taking breaks, when my camera overheated, you know. So at actual work, I probably only put in about 45 minutes of doing knife walls, drawing up my lines, and cutting. Maybe an hour. About half that time was probably actually cutting. So we're going to call it 2 hours for total time worked so far on this leg, because I'm keeping track of how much time is put into this also. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope to come back for the next part. I thought I'd go ahead and stop and put this up on the internet so that you could see this, that we're working on it. The next one I'll be tapering the leg, but this is all the time I had to commit to it today. So if you got any questions, shoot them to me in the comments, and we're making progress. See you next time.